Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the airplanes left and right of us here. We talked about milestones of flight, what milestones represents downstairs. We're going to talk about the airplanes on this level. The gallery over here to my right, to your left, is Pioneers of Flight. Pioneers talks about its aviators as pioneers of aviation, and this is primarily between the two world wars, 1919 to 1939. It's during this 20-year span that the airplane grew up. We're talking what's known today as golden age of flight. And what makes this age so golden is that the technological advancement of the airplane happened so meteorically in those 20 years. Think about this, we're flying World War I airplanes in 1919. A wooden airplane, fabric covered, the lubricant for the engine is castor oil. 20 years later, we're flying an all-metal, multi-engine transport aircraft like the DC-3. No other time aviation has that technological jump occurred, except between the two world wars. Now we're even going to go back before that, because we're going to talk about first the airplane you guys walked under, the spot. Let me do this. Let me stand right over here. Everybody can listen to me and look at the airplane at the same time. What you're looking at is the Wright Brothers EX, short for exhibition. So ladies and gentlemen, the plans this year, this summer, take you to an air show. And you're seeing the Blue Angels, the Thunderbirds, the Red Arrows, the Canadian Snowbirds, any of the other high-performance military demonstration squadrons. And the loops, the rolls, or whatever those professionals do. The Wright brothers built an airplane 100 years ago to do the same thing. And there it is. The EX is short for exhibition. But that is not why it's here. One of the guys who flew for that squadron for them, a guy named Cal Rogers. Cal Rogers here in 1910 about a guy named William Randolph Hearst who's going to pay $50,000 for the first airplane to fly across the United States in 30 days or less. So he says, I'm going to try it. And the man knows how to fly. He's got that box checked off. But a couple other boxes he needs work on. The one box he really needs help in is he doesn't have the money to afford an airplane. Remember, $5,000 is the airplane back then. He's a working staff. He's not fairly wealthy. But he's a good salesman. He knows how to talk himself. And he goes to a company called Armour. And Armour, he says to them, I need your help. Now let me ask you this, ladies and gentlemen. Do any of you know what Armour manufactures?
Wax.
I'm sorry?
Wax. No.
Not soap. Not, it's back up. It is not arm and hammer, 3 words. It's Armour as what a tank has.
Oh.
All right, anybody know what Armour manufactures? All right, clue for you guys. What is the one meat staple you have at a baseball game?
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs. Armour hot dogs. Think about it. We've all heard of those, right? Armour, meat packers, wants to diversify. Their thinking is simple. You're at a ball game and you're knocking back a dog, hot dog. What do you want to knock back the dog with is a beverage. So Armour comes up with their correct marketing department says the average American when they're watching a ball game likes to drink grape soda. So we're going to make grape soda. Now ladies and gentlemen, Armour says we're going to make grape soda. Now we need a name for this new drink. Anybody want to help me out? Anybody? What is it? What do you want to call it, sir? Vin Fizz. Can we use that name? All right, I got to ask permission because you came up with it. All right, so we're going to call this new grape soda Vin Fizz. Now we need a slogan for this new drink. Anybody? That's a little hard to come up with. What do you think? I'm sorry? What's the rest of that slogan? You're missing a word or two. It's right there, sir. All you have to do is read the whole way. That'll work. Yes, sir. The ideal grape drink. Now that you know what all that writing is on the bottom, what does that suggest to you? A one-word answer.
Advertising.
I'm sorry? What? No, please. Sponsorship or advertising? Please? Yeah. Oh, very good. You were looking, ladies and gentlemen, at a flying billboard. They're paying this guy $5 a mile for every mile he flies from where he starts, New York City, to the Mississippi. When he crosses over the Mississippi, you make $4 a mile. More people live on one side of the river than they do on the other. This is business. So our friend Cal Rogers Takes this airplane off September 17th, 1911, out of Sheepshead Bay, New York, the foot of Brooklyn in New York City. And he heads out. Now, in today's world, you fly in two different ways, IFR, VFR, instrument flight rules, visual flight rules. Your skills, your abilities, what you're doing, either one of the two is what you use. Well, in his world, they had an IFR also. His world, IFR did not mean instrument flight rules, ladies and gentlemen. His world, IFR meant I follow railroads. The iron horse, the iron compass was this guy's navigator. And it was actually his lifeline. There was a train that would shadow each other, that had a hanger on it, hanger on wheels, a Pullman car carrying his entourage, that type of thing. So out of New York, he has to fly through Chicago. That's part of the stipulation. He hangs left of Chicago and gets as far as Kansas City, Missouri, when this one-year contest expires. And Hearst says, I'm not paying him anymore. I don't care, he's supposed to be there, but California, in 30 days, forget it, it's not gonna happen, the contest is over, I'm not gonna pay the man a dime. Cal Rogers says, I don't care, I'm gonna keep on keeping on. So he flies out of Kansas City, heads south into Texas, hangs to the right at the U.S.-Mexican border, and shadows the U.S.-Mexican border till he finally gets to Pasadena, California, about 20 miles from the coast, the official end of the flight. Now, Cal Rogers is firing on all cylinders as he is, ladies and gentlemen. He says to the communities lining the Pacific coast, remember Pasadena is 20 or 25 miles inland, these communities lining the Pacific coast due west of Pasadena, he says to these communities, how much is it worth to you for the first airplane to go from one ocean to the ocean, from New York to your town, fill in the blank? How much is it worth to you? Long Beach says, we will pay you $1,000. 20% of what the airplane's worth. Think about this. That's a good chunk of money back then. And our friend Cal Rogers flies this airplane from Pasadena to Long Beach, California, rolls the wheels of the airplane into surf. Ocean to ocean in 49 days. The same amount of time it takes you to drive on the interstate from New York to Long Beach in today's world is how long it took him to fly in hours. 75 hours, 77 hours versus 49 days. There's a big discrepancy there. Well, 49 days, 15 of these 49 days, ladies and gentlemen, ends in a major crash. So essentially 2/3 or 1/3 of his flying days ends in a crash. So severe that he and or the airplane's not going anywhere anytime soon. So how much of this machine is original? Look all the way at the back. You see two vertical stabilizers there, and there are 6 struts holding those stabilizers parallel. Those 6 struts are what is original for that first takeoff. They rebuilt this airplane not once but twice across the United States. Now in this same train that is shadowing our friend Cal here in this airplane, there's another airplane disassembled. Out in California, he would take that airplane, assemble it, and fly that around the Southern California area to show the airplane generally off to the masses. So 4 months after he gets out there in this machine, he crashes the other machine with fatal results. The man has been a pilot for 1 year from the time he learned how to fly till he lost his life in an airplane crash. A very, very common occurrence for early aviation. You do something dumb with the airplane is not put together just right, whatever. A lot of people lose their life in early aviation, just the nature of the beast, so to speak. But aviation, it was evolving so quickly in so short a time, even before the golden age. Because, just to give you an idea what we're talking about. First flight across the United States by an airplane. First flight across the airplane, non-stop by an airplane. Between the two airplanes is just a dozen years. Let us wander into the gallery.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. What I'd like for you, ladies and gentlemen, to do is stand right about here. Look at the brown thing. All right. Sure. All right, next up is this big brown airplane above us. What did this big brown airplane do, ladies and gentlemen? Look along the side right there, it tells you. Now, if you have trouble reading poor contrasting colors, that says Army Air Service non-stop coast to coast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first airplane to fly across these United States. It is 1922, ultimately 1923. Now, the Army is looking for a really big airplane to do this. They're thinking about the feasibility of it. And they got to come up with an airplane to do this. And they find it in a company called Fokker. Fokker was building World War I airplanes that were very, very, very good. He goes home to the Netherlands, he's Dutch. After the war, he's building airplanes for the German. Goes home and he produces this airplane. This is essentially the biggest airplane in the United States in the early 1920s. It is also theoretically a passenger airplane. You can clearly see the cockpit in front, the open cockpit there. You can clearly see the door right here. Inside there, there's enough room for maybe 8, maximum load of 12 passengers. Now, the Army is not looking for a really big airplane to fly passengers. What they are looking for is a really big airplane to fly the passengers' weight in fuel. Because if you look very carefully in the front 2 windows here, you'll see some bluish-gray tanks, one on top of the other. There's fuel tanks running along the leading edge of each wing also. So the Army buys this thing, actually buys 2. One is called the T2, the airplane in front of it called meaning transport. The other one is A for ambulance. That airplane's long since broken up, forgotten about, discarded years, decades ago. Anyway, they take the T2 up to McCook Field in downtown Dayton, Ohio, and they modify the airplane for what they're going to use it for. Now, the 2 guys that are flying the airplane across the United States, ladies and gentlemen, the guy at top is John McCready. John McCready, he is perhaps the most famous of all the test pilots at McCook Field. At one time, he had distance and duration all locked up in terms of longest flying and the farthest flying. This is his records. The guy below him was Oakley Kelly. Now, Oakley Kelly is no slouch. He knows what he's doing. And Oakley Kelly wants to go on this flight the worst way. So what does he do? He takes and he puts a big map of the United States in his office wall and draws a line from one side of the country to the other. Map on the wall, line across, that's all he does. He doesn't mention to anybody what all that means. Nothing. His boss walks into his office one day and says, Kelly, what's that? Well, sir, that's a flight I'm thinking about flying across the United States. The boss says, oh, that's nice. Turns around and walks out of the office. Not much more, nothing is more said. A short time later, a week, whatever it was, don't know the time difference. The boss runs into Kelly and says, Kelly, you know that flight you're thinking about? Yes, sir. You're on it. Get ready. So that is how he got himself a ride on this flight. Now, so you got the 2 guys that fly the airplane, got the airplane. Now, the route is reasonably simple in today's world, certainly. What they're going to do is fly this really big airplane full of fuel from San Diego to New York City. And they're going to fly it that way for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, the basic reason. This still holds true to this day. Weather patterns, wind crossing North America is west to east. We all know that. You watch your weather reports every day, all the time. So they're going to fly with the wind. The bonus is the fuel coming out of the oil coming out of the ground in California, after they're flooded into gasoline, is the best gasoline out there. They call it California grade gas. It has a naturally higher octane rating than the oil coming out of the ground in the Gulf or the Atlantic. So they call it California grade gas. So what we're going to do is we're going to climb into this airplane in San Diego, head to New York, with the wind, California grade gas in the tanks. Success is a short. Ladies and gentlemen, not exactly. They tried twice. That way, west to east, failed both times. First time is not very far from where they take off. They are so full of fuel, they are so heavy, they can't climb over the mountains around 50 miles outside of San Diego. So they get around to those mountains, they know the mountains are there, they know there's a pass in the mountains where they're going to fly to the pass. That's no big deal. So they get to where the pass is supposed to be, it's soft jet, it's full of fog. They said suicide, forget about it. So they turn around, fly back to the airfield, scribble a note, tie it to a rock, fly over the airbase, and basically bore holes in the Southern California sky for the next 35 hours. Tried 2, and months later they flew through this pass with no problem whatsoever. They keep on keeping on. They get 2/3, 3/4 of the way across to Indianapolis, Indiana. where their water jacket, read that as a radiator, read that as their cooling system, fails. Before they give up, they put every conceivable liquid available to these two guys in that cooling system to keep the engine cool. And if you're thinking, does Scott mean exactly? Yes, I do. If it's liquid and they got it, they put it in there and it don't work. And they land. And these two guys are disgusting. They have tried twice and had failure both times. They said, what are we going to do? Let's try going the other way. So during the winter of 22 and 23, they moved their operation from San Diego to Roosevelt Field, Long Island, New York. 1923. So in other words, ladies and gentlemen, this airplane here will leave Roosevelt Field and head to California. It is not the most famous airplane that will leave Roosevelt Field. An airplane 4 years later will take off from Roosevelt Field and go the opposite way. If you want to know what that airplane is, look over your left shoulder, look to your left, you'll see it. That little silver thing right there.
We're to St. Louis.
We're in St. Louis, arguably the most famous airplane to leave Roosevelt Field. But that's our next stop, a couple of ways. So the two guys climb into this airplane, take off out of Roosevelt Field, and head west. Now, about every 5 or 6 hours, well, let me interrupt by starting to ask this question, ladies and gentlemen. Are there any of you here from the West Coast? Anybody from the West Coast? Anybody? Where are you from? Oh, I see San Francisco. What part? Are you from the city? I'm sorry? San Jose. My dad's alma mater, 1949. I lived on the peninsula first 10 years of life. Well, what about you? California. What part? So that's Southern kind of, right? All right. Well, he's from the Bay Area. You're from Southern California. Do you guys know each other? You're practically neighbors. So let me ask you too. Let me ask you this guy. I'm sorry. Did you say? Okay. How long did it take you guys from California to get here? 6 hours? Does that sound about right? Okay. So when you're flying home and you're in this aluminum